Good evening, councillors. I declare the meeting open at 7:02. Could we all stand for the national anthem, please?
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, of beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath our radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this Commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas, we've boundless plains to share. With courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Councillor Green could lead us in prayer. Thank you,
Mr. Mayor. Dear Lord, as we gather here this evening, we think of those within our own community who are suffering and need our help. We especially remember those who have serious long-term illnesses, and also remember those in their families and friends who are providing them with great support. Also, we look overseas and see some of those troubled nations, and we ask, Lord, that we think of those tonight, those who are suffering due to war, particularly in the Ukraine, particularly communities that are suffering from the impacts of environmental damage, whether that be through floods or fires, as they impact on communities throughout the world. We recognise, Lord, how fortunate we are to live in a community such as ours, to live in this great nation. But in saying that, Lord, we also recognise how grateful we are for the opportunities that are presented. Finally, we ask, Lord, that you guide the members who represent our community here tonight as councillors in their decision making. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Well, just with the acknowledgement of country, the council acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is being held, the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nations, and we pay tribute to their elders past and present and emerging. Thank you, councillors. We have apologies. We have two apologies. One from Councillor Tegg and another one from Councillor Konjowski. Don't think there are any other apologies. No. Can I have a motion to accept apologies and grant leave of absence? Councillor Lansbury and Councillor Nick Smerdley. Notice of live streaming of the council meeting. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast live on council's website. This recording will be made available on council's website. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, and note that council's code of meeting practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of council. Disclosures of interest. We have a disclosure of interest from Councillor Peter Marnie on CCL 059-22 Environment 17, report of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting on the 11th of July. He is a member of Friends of Glenlee, and he has a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. Peter Marnie, NM 066-22, acquisition of Glenlee. He is a member of Friends of Glenlee. He has a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest. Peter Marnie, question with notice, 22, question with notice 034-22, Glenlee, 80 Baronia Parade, Lugano. He is a member of Friends of Glenlee, non-significant, non-pecuniary. Peter Marnie, CCL 061, report of the Georges River Local Traffic Advisory Committee meeting, 5th of July 2020. He is acquainted with one of the non-voting members of the Georges River Local Traffic Advisory Committee, having worked together at the same federal agency, non-significant, non-pecuniary. Councillor Catherine Lansbury, notice of motion 058-22, Charles Tree Reserve lighting upgrade. Her son is a coach and committee member of Cars Park Football Club, whose home ground and clubhouse is located on Charles Tree Reserve. So she'll vacate the chamber. It's a significant non-pecuniary interest. Councillor Catherine Lansbury, report of the Community and Culture, that's CCL 062-22. Her son is a coach and committee member of at Cars Park Football Club, the sub-licence holder of the Charles Prairie Reserve. Amenities, non-significant, non-pecuniary. And that's about all. Now we have the public participation on various items on the agenda. There are 6 speakers registered for tonight's meeting. I'll remind the speakers that speakers have 3-minute time limit. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. The first speaker is Mr. Eric Yung, Can Revive in person, regarding notice of motion 059-22. Congratulations to Can Revive on the Body, Mind and Spirit Wellness Program. Mr. Eric Yung.
Mr. Mayor, fellow councillors, I'm speaking on to support the motion brought by Councillor Nancy Liu and 059-22. Through Councillor Nancy Liu and Councillor Colleen Symington, Can Revive have received the councillors' ward discretionary grant. The purpose of this grant was to provide a program called Body, Mind and Spirit Wellness Program to increase the participants' ability to take charge of their own health and well-being. The program used a holistic approach to provide an integrated self-management wellness program for Mandarin-speaking cancer patients and their carers. Can Revive is a public benevolent institution that supports Chinese-speaking people affected through their cancer journey. Can Revive has had a long history of collaboration with local councils, the former Hurstville and corporate councils, and now Georges River Council, since Can Revive was established in Support Service Center in Hurstville at 2007. Although Can Revive started in Haymarket in 1995, it is patently clear that to better serve the community, it has to bring the service closer to the community and to support the community that is served. Can Revive now has support center in Chatswood in the north, Haymarket in Central, and Westmead in Western Sydney, and Hurstville in southern Sydney. Thanks to Georges Rivers Council and other like-minded community organizations and medical institutions, Can Revive has overcome even the pandemic and lockdown to give continued support to people affected by cancer. A bit of good news is that one of our benefactors has now provided Kamiwai with a free use of a building in Park Road, at which time we will reopen there. And for that purpose, Kamiwai have decided to open the use of the property to all other, especially culturally and linguistically diverse community of Georges River Council, and we would hope to have continuous support from Georges River Council and other community organizations. And again, thank you for all your help over the last few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yu.
Thank you.
Now we've got Konstantinos Sotiradis on behalf of Cars Park Football Club in person, dealing with notice of motion 058-22, Osprey Reserve lighting upgrade. Mr. Sotiradis.
There you go. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, fellow councillors. I'm here today on behalf of the Cars Park Football Club and also our affiliates that use our ground at Charles Peary for the motion put forward to upgrade the lighting at the ground. Bit of background, our club was established in 1930. We're one of the oldest running clubs still in the St George Association, providing football facilities for the residents of Georges River Council in the area. As part of our ground, we also share that with the St George Warriors, a special needs program for kids with special needs and disabilities, to let them play football in the mainstream. And we also house our St George Referees Association and the who run training sessions for all referees within our association, and also the A-League referees and state referees that come down and use our facilities. A lighting upgrade to our ground will help, as currently we use essentially 1/3 of the ground due to the lights that we have, which creates obviously overuse of the area. We're all compacted into one confined area. So with an upgrade to our lighting, we'll unlock key areas for our ground to not only space out, utilize the grounds better, which will hopefully assist in the usage of it and the maintenance of the field, but also from a safety aspect, will allow greater visibility for our kids to use the grounds and go forward from there. The lighting currently that we have at the ground is for our current use that we have, it's below, it's insufficient. So this is why we've come tonight with the help of Councillor Paul to seek some funding to basically just upgrade that so our park can continue to be used for our fellow members in the community, from ages from under 6s all the way to senior over 35s, our growing female participants, but also for our special needs, the St George Warriors, the special needs program, and our referees that also use the ground. So thank you for the consideration. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Sotiradis. We now go to Ms. Megan Argent, and she's going to address us remotely on notice of motion 066-22, acquisition of Glenlee.
Hello.
Hello.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Hello.
Hello. Ms. Argent?
Yes.
Oh, you can address us if you like.
Thank you. Thank you. I would like to thank Georges River Council officers and councillors for the excellent work they have put into the heritage listing of Glenlee Lugano on a local government level and now for the state heritage listing. I would like to thank the Acting General Manager, David Tuxford, for the time he took to organise and attend the last meeting with members of the public in good nature on June the 24th, along with Minister Mark Coorey and Sam Kidman of Heritage New South Wales. Although the meeting did not give us the result we desired, the effort people went to was appreciated, and I hope it is understood that the community has worked tirelessly to save Glenlee. So it was challenging for some of us attending, but that does not detract from the goodwill of the Georges River Council and the Acting General Manager in their efforts to support saving Glenlee. I deeply appreciate the efforts of Mark Coorey, who has responded commendably to the public desire to save Glenlee and has continued to work towards that goal alongside us. The path has been challenging, but we are in hope that this 100-year plus legacy will be saved to the satisfaction of all parties and for the greater community. I also hope that the remnant forest, which is the natural heritage that sets the scenes of our cultural beginnings, will be preserved as a crucial component of our heritage and our environment. And thank you for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Sargent.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we will go
Unknown participant is now exiting.
we'll now go to Mr. Ivan Wong on behalf of CAS Care Limited. He will be addressing us remotely, and he will be addressing
Unknown participant is now joining.
Notice of motion 62-22 and notice of motion 60-22 Community Safety Education Program. Congratulations to CAS Care Limited on their performance A Journey in the New Land. Mr. Wong, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, by all means, address us. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Ivan Wong, General Manager, Home Aging Services of CAS Care. I would like to express my support for two motions put up by Councillor Nancy Liu to this meeting. The first one is motion NMO 6322. Congratulations to CAS Care Limited on their performance, A Journey in New Land. The performance was held on 22nd of July this year at the Marina Auditorium in Hurstville. Over 200 performers from the Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Indonesian groups of CAS worked together with professional performers to tell the story of the development of CAS in the past 41 years. The multicultural performance was attended by more than 600 audiences. Through the joint effort to perform on stage, people put into practice the idea of inclusion and celebrated the richness of Australia's diverse culture. After the COVID outbreak, the performance was one of the efforts of CAS to encourage people to be reconnected, participate in the community, and build resilience. We are very thankful to the Council for providing us the venue to do the performance. In particular, we would also like to thank the Mayor, Councillor Liu, and Councillor Wang for attending the performance as our guests. We hope that the Council can continue the support to this kind of activities to promote multiculturalism and build up resilience in the community post-COVID. Secondly, I would also like to support motion NMO 6222, Community Safety Education Program, also put up by Councillor Liu to this meeting. Georges River is a very multicultural local government area. Being a service provider in this LGA, CAS Care is very well aware of the strong need by local residents on community safety. For people with limited English skills and little understanding on safety issues, it is extremely important that there is culturally and linguistically appropriate education programs on areas such as crime prevention, smoke alarms, and neighborhood watch to help residents live safely in their homes and in the community. We support the Council and government departments such as the Police, Fire and Rescue New South Wales, commit greater resources to help the local residents break language barriers and gain access to information related to their safety. As always, CAS is more than happy to continue working with different stakeholders to promote community safety and related education programs in Georges River. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wong. We'll now go to Ms. Alicia Payer, who's going to address us remotely on CCL 59-22, Environment 017-22, report on the Environment and Planning Committee Meeting held on the 11th of July
Unknown
2020.
participant is now joining.
Report on submissions planning proposal to list 80 Baroni Parade Laguna.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
She's gone. Oh, Alicia, are you there? Ms. Payer?
Yes,
And I
yes, thank
acknowledge
you, Mr. Mayor.
your previous contribution to this council as a councillor. By all means, address us, Alicia.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this opportunity I'm taking to thank the Directorate of Environment and Planning for the heritage listing of the site we all now know as Glenlee at Lugano. Many local council heritage schedules have significant omissions which often come to light once an item is under or area is under threat. The purpose of an interim heritage order is to provide time for an investigation to consider an omitted item for the local register. It cannot be used as an attempt to block a development application. 20 years ago, I flooded the former Cogra Council with evidence of the significance of the house of the original grantees, the first to purchase in Cogra, the Carroll family's house, known as Carlton, after which the suburb was named. It overlooked Cogra Bay. Under threat, the National Trust of New South Wales obtained an interim heritage order from the Minister and went further to also nominate Carlton for the State Heritage Register. Although unsuccessful, the Heritage Council did support its inclusion on the local register, so did Council's Heritage Advisor. Despite this, Cogra Council's decision in 2001 was to allow the National Trust classified two-storey sandstone building dated from the 1840s to be demolished for a new development that took advantage of the site's existing rights. The site still bears no formal recognition of its history. This is still the worst example I know of mismanagement in the protection due to a heritage item. I use it as a contrast to the very best example of recognising an omitted heritage item that I've seen in the 20 years since, being the heritage listing of Glenlee, which is now imminent. The heritage listing process began exactly 1 year ago in July of 2021, with Georges River Council supporting immediate action for Glenlee with the first of two interim heritage order requests and the first motion which I was able to put forth to consider it for our heritage register. It was heartening to hear the new Conservation Director of the National Trust praise Council's acknowledgement of the full site as classified by the Trust in 2019 and to witness Council's unanimous support in accord with the community towards its ongoing preservation. Further, a year ago, I was supported with a motion for a register for conservation management plans implemented by Council earlier this year. The Independent Heritage Report for Glenlee recommends that a conservation management plan be commissioned to provide guidance for the appropriate future use and conservation of the heritage values of this site. I ask Council to pursue this plan and to continue to pursue the Aboriginal Heritage Study and Management Strategy that was unanimously supported a year ago as well, because the importance of an area of heritage significance can be greater than the sum of its individual sites and places. Glenlee is an example of having important associations and connections with other sites and places within the broader region. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ms. Payer. Thank you, and good to hear from you again. Now we'll go to Senior Constable Sonia Grakovic, St. George Police Area Command, who will be addressing us remotely on notice of motion 62-22, Community Safety Education.
Unknown participant is now joining.
Senior Constable Sonia Grakovic, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, you could feel free to address us.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Okay.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Oh, yeah, is it my turn?
Yes, it's your turn.
Yes, thank you. Senior Constable Karkalovic from St. George Police Area Command. I'm a crime prevention officer. I would like to accept the motion of Georges River Council in relation to the Community Safety Education Program, item number NM062-22.
we have built a strong relationship with Georges River Council, and I believe that this program is excellent in relation to it's holding a great strategies for protecting our community and reduce crime in the community. So I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Senior Constable. Much appreciate. We appreciate your address. Does not appear to be any questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillors, that concludes the public participation on items on the agenda. We'll now go to the confirmation of minutes of previous meetings. Confirmation of the ordinary council meeting held on the Monday, the 27th of June 2022. Could I have a move, please? Councillor Colleen Symington, seconder Councillor Christina Jamison. I'll put that. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now, just a couple of mayoral minutes, councillors. The first one is the congratulations to the Three Bridges and council officers on the NAIDOC Week Youth and Family Day. We attended amongst many of the councillors did attend, and it was a great day. It was my pleasure to attend the NAIDOC Week Youth and Family Day held on the 15th of July 2022 at Penshurst Park Sporting Hub. The event was a partnership between Three Bridges Community Organisation and Georges River Council, which was led by the First Nations specialists from Three Bridges with support of council officers. The theme of NAIDOC this year was Get Up, Stand Up, excuse me, Show Up, which is about supporting reforms.
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Thank you. Supporting reforms for the First Nations and celebrating those who have been champions of change for the First Nations people. It was great to see so many people attend this event, demonstrating the high level of interest and engagement from our community in First Nations cultures and heritage. With over 1,000 people in attendance who enjoyed food, market stalls and entertainment. I was privileged to witness immersive cultural experiences from the First Nations people, including a welcome to country and smoke ceremony, followed by cultural performances from the locally based Kumuri Aboriginal dance troupe. The event was successful in attracting visitors throughout the day, in recognising the traditional custodians of our local area, the Bidjigal people, and promoting our local area as a socially and culturally connected community. The event also showcased Penshurst Park Sporting Hub as an ideal location for community organisations and council to stage high quality events. I congratulate Three Bridges community for leading such a successful event, including Mr. Raj Nair, Ms. Vanessa Gorgi of Three Bridges. And I also want to congratulate our council officers under the directorship of Ms. Christy Dodd and the council officers that were there and getting involved and assisting with the community events. And of course, I want to thank everyone who was involved in delivering the special event. I look forward to greater collaboration between Council and First Nations people as Council's First Nations strategy is developed. The motion is that Council congratulate the Three Bridges community, including the First Nations specialists, along with the Council officers, on their successful delivery of the NAIDOC Week Youth and Family Day. I move that, and seconded by Councillor Green. The next one, which I just attempted to this afternoon. Oh, I'm going to put it to a vote. Could all those in favour say aye? Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. This afternoon, I and Councillor Borgen Mr. Steve Camper, State Member for Rockdale, attended the 150-year celebration of the Cogra Public School. The Cogra Public School held a 150-year celebration and assembly on the 2nd of August of 2020, which obviously is today. I congratulate the school principal, Ms. Nitsa Gomninos, the school leadership team, all the teachers and the students on their wonderful presentation and performances. The 150-year celebration was finally able to take place after 2 years of cancellations due to COVID-19. The assembly heard stories of the 150-year history of the school from past students, principals, teachers, current students, and the community, including the origins of the school, which was formed on the site of the current St. Paul's Anglican Church in 1870, with around 45 students. We were delighted at the performances of the Stage 3 drumming group, the senior dance group, the Chinese dance group, and the Bollywood dance group, who displayed the cultural diversity that is celebrated in Cogra Public School. The school provided a lovely high tea and had a historical display on show, which included past uniforms, class photos, historical classroom, and office equipment. Local historian Dr. Gary Darby has written a book on the history of the 150 years of Cogra Public School, which was available for purchase. As I indicated earlier on, I was accompanied by Mr. Steve Camper, Member for Rockdale, State Member for Rockdale, and Councillor Elise Borg. The motion is that the council congratulates Cogra Public School on the celebration of their 150-year anniversary of the school. The Mayor writes to the principal to congratulate the school on a successful celebration of the school's history. I move that way.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Ball. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare the motion carried. And now we're going to condolences. Are there any condolences? No condolences. No need to. Okay. We have a procedural motion. Could we have Councillor Christina Jamieson? You're moving a procedural motion to change that. Would you like to?
That in accordance with clause 7.5 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice, Council alter the order of business of this meeting to allow for the following items to be considered prior to all other items on the agenda. NM 058-22, NM 059-22, NM 62-22, NM 63-22, NM 66-22, and ENV 017-22.
Seconded by Councillor Borg. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. And we start with the Charles Freer Reserve lighting upgrade. Councillor Borg.
Seconded, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Would you like to address me?
Yes, please. So I'll move the motion as written. Just a couple of comments. Established in 1930, and thank you to Con, who spoke in the public forum on behalf of the Carrs Park Football Club. Established in 1930, the Carrs Park Football Club is the oldest club in Football St George, serving the community of Carrs Park for around 90 years, and for nearly 60 of those years calling Charles Pirie Reserve home. Charles Pirie Reserve, as we heard from Con, is the home ground to not only the Carrs Park Football Club, but also St George Referees Association, who use the ground for training and development of the local referees, and the St George Warriors, a special needs program that encourages inclusion and participation of kids and youth with special needs. With 3 organisations calling Charles Pirie home, the field is highly valued and highly utilised. The club have expressed concerns on behalf of all 3 organisations that the current lighting at the field only provides adequate light on the main pitch and not at the north and south ends of the park. And the result of this is the higher intensity of use concentrated on the main pitch for training, which, as you can appreciate, is only exacerbating the deterioration of the field, which is already under huge stress from the heavy rainfalls, which Charles Pirie suffers more than most due to its location adjacent to the stormwater canal, which often floods into the pitch. So this motion is for council officers to investigate and provide a report on the most appropriate lighting solution and the associated cost to upgrade the lighting to Charles Pirie Reserve so that the northern and southern ends of the park are adequately lit to enable training in those locations and to undertake the required consultation with stakeholders and the community. I hope councillors can support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Book. Councillor Mir, did you want to add to that as the seconder? That's right. Is there any objections to this motion? Is there any further discussion? All right, then I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried unanimously. We're now going to congratulations to Can Revive on the Body, Mind and Spirit Wellness Program. Councillor Liu. It's moved by Councillor Liu, seconded by Councillor Colleen Symington.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Symington. I won't repeat what the President of Can Revive, Eric Yong, just said, but I just try to emphasize like what he mentioned. They start from our southern office in Hurstville back to almost 15 years ago. I think like what he said, it is organization near local and then return to local to return to local community. So that's why I think it is a good organization that council has been worked with them for years, and it's good to see that they come back to the local office, and it's a good move for them to invite the other community organizations from CALD, from CALD community, to share with that good facility. So that's why I really want to acknowledge what they have done for so many years for those special community of the cancer patient and their carers and family members. So really happy and pleased to see Georges River and former Hurstville and Cobra Council and current Georges River to work with them. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Nancy. Councillor Colleen Simon, did you want to add anything to that?
No.
Thank you. Is there any objection to the motion? Is there any further discussion? Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. The next item on the agenda is congratulations to Cascare Limited on their performance A Journey in the New World, and that's Councillor Nancy Liu. You're moving it.
I move it.
A seconder, Councillor Elmire.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Elmire, to second my motion. We just listened to the General Manager of CAS, Mr. Ivan Wong, to address the meeting and to the public, and to emphasize the achievement for the last 40 years since this organization CAS has established. And during this 40 years, we have been, council have been witnessing a lot of program and projects this CAS has been doing. I remember back to the new term just started, Mr. Mayor invited the CAS committee members and at current, I think the General Manager and the current Chairman to council to have a chat with Mr. Mayor, and thank you for that. And in particular, this performance, like Ivan just mentioned, a few councillors, including the mayor, we attended, and it's really good to see this organization has been catering for the demand from the ethnic community, including Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and Indonesia community, to work with the community from these organization to try to meet the requirement from different different community organizations. So that's why I wanted to congratulate their achievement, what they have done for the last 40 years. So we're looking forward to work with this CAS organization in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nancy. Councillor Sam Almeida, did you want to add to that? Just one point that I'd like to make, and I did attend it, and it was, how can I say, it was inspiring, it was vibrant, it was colourful, and it was full of energy. So I congratulate them too on their performances and being able to put something like that together, because it was quite complex from also all groups from the community, and I think that was an excellent performance and an excellent show. That was moved by Councillor Nancy Lewis, seconded by Councillor Sam Almeida. If there's no more discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. Now we'll go to the Community Safety Education Program. Councillor Nancy Lewis, moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Councillor Colleen Symington. Councillor Nancy Lewis, would you like to, do you want to say something about this?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for Sonia representing the local police to address us. And I just try to emphasize, actually, Georgia Rural Council has been working with the local police for so many years as we merge into the new council, and the former Hurstville and Kogarah. We have been done so for so long as well. So as a local council, I think it's very important for us to work with police to ensure our community feels safe to live, work, and explore the area. So council work with police to identify, the purpose is to identify any area of concern, develop the safety initiatives and community education program on community safety, crime prevention program, and road safety. So that's what we have done, and we're looking forward to work closely with the local police as well. So for tonight, some people who address us, some of them are coming from the local organization, community organization, and the local police. I wanted to see there would be a good pattern for council and the local community organization like CAS and the others, and the local police to work together for this education program, because Hurstville or the Georgia River Great Area, we have such a diverse population. We understand many of them, many of us actually are from non-English speaking background. But what our messages to the local community would be, the police and the council, we are here to help the community. We are part of the community. So that's why this education program will be very important for those different stakeholders to work together. So that's why I put this motion forward to council, and I hope our councillors to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nancy Liu. Councillor Colleen Symington, did you want to say a few words there?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to Councillor Liu for bringing this very important motion to council. I think everyone deserves to feel safe in their community without fear, or for themselves or for others. I think if you speak to most people, the top priority would be safety. That's what they care about. So any initiatives that council can implement to raise awareness and education, educating our residents to protect themselves, maintain the sanctuary in their homes, and protect their property is extremely important. It'll only improve the quality of their lives. I'd also like to see within this initiative some emphasis on cyber security, in particular in relation to financial safety. It's called like catfishing, where people pretend to be your family or financial organisation, or like rental agents when you're going for leases. And the thing is, you don't think this can happen to you. And I'm probably people of a certain age. Like, I mean, it's happened to me. It happened to me a couple of months ago. Someone they came through and impersonated my son, and I never thought that would happen to me. So I think we need to raise that awareness because what it leaves you with is an anxiety of feeling unsafe, and that is a huge safety concern when it comes to your financial security. So again, I congratulate Councillor Liu for bringing this to council, and I look forward to hearing about the fantastic results it will bring. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simon. Is there any further discussion on this? Is anyone against this motion? No. Look, I will put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. Now we'll go to the acquisition of Glenlee, and that notice of motion is in the name of Councillor Peter Marnie. Moved by Councillor Marnie, seconded by Councillor Samuel O'Meara. If you'd like to address the councillors.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just put the motion as it's in the paper, thank you. But I've got a amendment which I sent through to Ms. McKinley a bit earlier. And that's the council writes to the current owners of 80 Barodia Parade, Brady Parade Lugano, seeking their permission for council to enter their property to conduct an assessment upon the natural heritage significance of the entire site. A report on the cost of this assessment is to be presented to the next council meeting, and that's it. But I guess by way of explanation, that's because there was an assessment done on the significance of other aspects of Glenlee, but not the actual natural and environmental significance of it. So if we can look at that aspect, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Samuel O'Meara, you're the seconder. Would you like to make any comments? Thank you.
Apart from the fact that this has been going on for some time, Mr. Mayor, but I congratulate Councillor Marnie for continuously putting this on the agenda, and I think it's important that we continue the pressure in terms of trying to find a solution of how we can get closer and closer to hopefully one day having Glenlee as part of council's assets and open spaces.
Thank you, Councillor O'Meara. Is anyone against the motion? Okay. Well, then I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried unanimously. The next item are the committee reports. And the first report is the report of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting held on the 11th of July 2022. Councillor Catherine Lansbury, the chair.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Bishop, I know that you've only just arrived, and it might be easier if I actually ask you this question on the back of Lisa Payne made a presentation tonight about this particular item. So I might raise it now and put it on notice if that's okay, because I don't want to put you on the spot given that you didn't hear it. If it would be possible to obtain a conservation management plan for Glenlee. I think that was a recommendation somewhere along the way.
Ms. Bishop.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lansbury, it's a very similar issue as raised by Councillor Marnie, is that if council doesn't usually do conservation management plans on private land, especially in the absence of a development application or in the absence of if the site's not under threat. It's not impossible that it occurs, but it would need to have, of course, the landowner's consent, and it would need a budget, because the purpose of a conservation management plan also sets out the areas to be concerned, but conserved and protected, but it also will outline areas where appropriate development might occur. That's what why a landowner prepares a conservation management plan, because it sets out how the future of that site might work. But again, it'd be the same type of process as I suggest, Councillor Marnie. One, we seek the landowner's consent because we are going onto private land. And the second thing is there needs to be a budget for it.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ms. Bishop. So based on that, I will just move the recommendation, which is ENV 017-22, report on submissions, planning proposal to list 80 Baronia Parade Lugano, Glenlee as a local heritage item.
Seconder. Councillor Natalie Moore, sorry. Well, is anybody wanting to talk to anything? Do you want to talk to anything there, councillor?
Can we need a seconder?
Okay. Well, I'll put that. That's all of them. Now, can I just clarify one thing? Councillor Lansbury, that's all the items in the paper. Is that right?
Sorry, no, that was just the one item that was spoken to in public forum.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Now we have to move the next three then.
Yeah.
Okay, councillor Lansbury.
So, okay, I know it's a little bit confusing, isn't it? When we rearrange the agenda, so therefore I'll move the items 18, 19 and 20 on the business paper. Thank you.
Seconder. Seconded by councillor Green. Is there any discussion on any of those items? As there's no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Okay, carried unanimously. Now we'll go to the report of the Finance and Governance Committee meeting held on the 11th of July 2022. Councillor Liz Ball.
Thank you. I'll move the report in full from items FIN 030-22 to FIN 033-22 and to be adopted by council.
Seconder. Councillor Christina Jamieson is seconded. Is there any discussion on this? Okay, well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Now we've got the report of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 11th of July 2022. Councillor Colleen Symington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move both items, ASS 019-22 and ASS 020-22. Thank you.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Natalie Moore. Thank you. Is there any discussion on any of those items? As there's no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. Now we'll go to the report of the Community and Culture Committee meeting held on the 11th of July 2022. Councillor Nancy Liu. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to move all the items printed in the report as it is already printed. Can I have a seconder? Oh, thank you, Councillor.
Seconded by Councillor Samuel Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Is there any discussion on that one item? No? I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously, and we'll now go to CCL 063-22, proposed council and committee meeting schedule 2022-2023. Councillor Elise Ball.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr. Mayor.
Seconder. Seconded by Councillor Kevin Green. Is there any discussion on those dates? There being no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. We'll now go to CCL 064-22, financial governance, funding and formulating the capital program. Councillor Liz Ball.
Yes, I'll move the recommendation and just thank the Chief Financial Officer on a very extensive report.
Yes, seconded by, who was that? Oh, Councillor Samuel Mayor. Is there any discussion on that report? Yes, I must admit, it is a very detailed and comprehensive report, and I must commend the Chief Financial Officer for providing such a detailed report, and thank you for doing that. In any event, if there's no further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Now we'll go to the General Manager's Delegation, CCL 065-22, Councillor Liz Ball.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the recommendation with a minor amendment to Part D, which is to delegate the instrument of delegation to the General Manager as per the amended attachment 1 as circulated to councillors by email on the 1st of August 2022. So it's just part D that is changing, and the rest is as per the recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a seconder? A seconder by Councillor Christina Jamieson. Is there any discussion on this?
Can I ask a couple of questions, Mr.
By
Mayor?
all means, Councillor Kevin Green, yes.
Firstly, just to you, Mr. Mayor, because you've had more experience in this than anyone else here, just confirming that in terms of those leases and licenses that are listed in, I think it's 4A and 4B, section 4A, haven't they always gone to council anyway? My recollection is a number of those have certainly gone to council in my short time on council, but I defer to you in terms of what the others, but that's my understanding that they've always traditionally gone to council anyway.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Councillor Green. I do think that was the case and has been the case, but but not totally. I think we just got a few of those mentioned.
I can't think of any. Can you detail any of those? Because looking at that list, certainly the ones that have come up in recent times, and I do recognise, because I used to, when I was younger and before COVID, have a hit of tennis at Ken Rosewell Centre, and I remember that coming up to Hurstville Council prior. So I don't think that's come up in my time. But my recollection is all those. So my point is, that's all. They've always come to council anyway. So that seems to me to be superfluous. But I'm happy to
look.
Anyway, so generally you agree with me, but
Yeah,
so you can't.
But I think
clarify.
at this stage, it's probably what we're doing is reaffirming a lot of this and putting it all in one, I suppose, one resolution of council. So there is no, I suppose there's no debate on the matter.
If I may provide detailed clarification.
Yeah.
I think the other change is that where the council was entering into leases greater than 21 years, they automatically came to council, and some of these involve that type of an arrangement. So that's why they came to council, not necessarily because it was these sites. The change to the delegation would make all lease licenses, etc., greater than 10 years would come to council, which would probably pick up these types of leases and licenses. The other obvious change is that this also talks about revocations and modifications and changes to those leases and licenses as well, where otherwise they may have been dealt with previously under delegation. That would make it clear that a change to this would also need to come to council.
Thank you. Is that a follow-up question?
Yeah, sorry. My understanding is, my memory is there's a number of those that were actually 10 years or less that are on that list. So,
Those were 10 years.
yeah, no, they were licenses as well. Anyway, that's okay. As I say, so I think we're just doing something that we've always previously done, but I'll move on from that. Again, to you, Mr. Mayor, again, because you've had greater experience, my recollection is that when it came to giving people with a lease or license on properties, that the opportunity to put in a development application, not have the development application assessed, to put in a development application, that council could not withhold that. And in fact, if they did do that, it would go to court, and court would put itself in the place of the council to make that determination. I'm not a lawyer, but that is my recollection of advice that we've previously been given. And again, this seems to go outside that advice.
The only thing that I can remember, or I do know, is that in most leases you'll find a clause that indicates that you cannot unnecessarily withhold that approval, but council has the right for various reasons to, withhold the signing of the DA if it believes in it's not in the best interest of the community. So,
That's part of the advice that we've received previously, I think.
Appreciate
and as I say, just putting that on the record, because I think we should do that. My point being, again, I don't think it's necessary because I think there is a system in place. The other item that I think, just to confirm with you again, Mr. Mayor, it seems somewhat anomalous in this, and again, I'll stand corrected on your advice, is that, for instance, Olds Park Sports Club, which is one of the groups listed in, I think, section 4B, I'll stand corrected on that, but Olds Park Sports Club, if they wish to obtain a grant from anybody, whether it's the Royal, because Olds Park Sports Club, as everyone knows, is actually a bowling club, if they wish to obtain a grant from the Royal, or indeed if they wish to obtain a grant as they've done in previous years, because again, everyone will know that that is they host the Meals on Wheels service. So if they wanted to get more than $30,000, they'd actually have to come to council to ask permission to apply for that grant. Whereas Penshurst West Sports Club, who use Olds Park, could actually apply to the government to put lights or upgrade the lights at Olds Park, which may cost $150,000. They wouldn't have to come to council for permission to do so. That's my reading, and I'll give a further example just to make sure I am reading this correctly. For instance, at Peakhurst Park, where we have the synthetic field, which is under license to St George Football Association, if they wish to apply for a grant of more than $30,000, they'd have to come to council to do that, not go through the general manager. Whereas Peakhurst United Soccer Club, who play on the field right next door, again, they could apply for, let's keep it simple again, $150,000 to put lights on that ground, but wouldn't have to apply to the council to do that. They could just go and put in that application for a grant. In fact, it would be St George Football Association who actually do have the lease on Peakhurst Park. And I'll give a further example, which again, to me, it seems somewhat anomalous in what we're doing. If Cars Park Restaurant and Kiosk, which is listed again, I think, in section 4B, if they wish to obtain a grant to do some work on their facility and it's more than $30,000, they have to apply to the whole council to do so. But if one of our tenants at Hurstville House, for instance, let's keep it simple, it might be a ground floor tenant who decides they want to now put in an application for a grant from somewhere to upgrade their facility, they can do what they like as long as they just put in a DA through council. My point being, and I'm happy to stand corrected, that's my interpretation of what we're actually aiming to put through here. Am I correct with each of those or some of those examples? Because if I am correct, it seems somewhat anomalous before I ask my final question.
You're partly correct, but I think I'll defer to Sue Weatherly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you are correct. There will be circumstances where certain lessees of council will be able to obtain, will be able to apply for a grant without seeking the approval. They'll still require the approval of council, but will not need to come to a full council meeting. Well, the exemption that you didn't mention was, of course, in some of those cases, they may be projects already identified in council's management plan, a management plan or a project that council's already endorsed, and therefore that would not be a matter that would need to come to council. So yes, this means that those properties there will be treated differently in relation to grants, leases, licenses, and seeking development consent. That this has reflected the work the council undertook in those workshops.
Councillor Green,
Again,
yes.
And just to ask my final question, I accept that. As I say, I was picking on specific areas, so I don't think we're disagreeing with each other in fact. The last question I have is this, and this is actually to the acting general manager, and that is my understanding that everything that is being looked at and taken away from the general manager's position, not the acting general manager specifically, but the general manager's position, is that all of these are considered generally to be operational issues.
General manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I think that a lot of them, because of the nature of what the delegations are trying to achieve, is that they aren't operational in the true sense of operational. You know, council may in itself decide that it wants to run Hurstville Aquatic Leisure Centre itself. So if that was the case, they could do that. I would not have to come to council for that to occur. I'd have to come to council for budget approval and so on and so forth, and a business case how that was going to happen. But technically, it could be deemed to be something that we could look at further down the track, or may never look at it and stay with the current arrangement. But I don't class that as operational as such, because I think it is outside the realm of operational. But I'm happy for Miss Weatherly to make a comment on that as well, if she would like to.
No, she doesn't wish to.
If I may, and I think sometimes there's a discussion within council of where do you draw the line. But if the council makes a decision that a particular piece of infrastructure, the future of it is of critical importance to the community, some of how it is operated may in fact be a strategic decision.
Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I actually had a question for the Acting General Manager, which based off one of Councillor Green's earliest questions when he raised some concerns about some of the premium facilities coming to council. I can think of two instantly that never came to council and I still don't have any knowledge about, and that was very fortuitously, so Sydney FC had a lease at Netstrata, and then there was an agreement that was entered into with the Sharks football team, and I have no idea of what those leases involved. And I think at the time, unfortunately, we were operating in an environment of everything was considered an operational matter. But is my recollection correct on that, Mr. Tuxford? Do you recall? I just don't recall either of those coming to council at all. I believe that they were just dealt with under delegation, hence the review of some of these options now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and Mr. Latta might want to just verify this as well, but that is right. The arrangements that were made with those associations were under delegation. They did not come to council.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I'll also just add that Netstrata Jubilee is owned and managed by council. So the arrangements that were entered into with Sydney FC and the Sharks Football Club were actually hire agreements for the grounds.
Yeah. Councillor Paul.
Yes, I'd just like to speak for motion if I could. Thank you. So I believe that councillors who are elected to represent the views of the community should be the ones that make decisions about the future of council's key community assets, both in terms of who operates them, for how long, and under what terms, as well as what development occurs on those community assets. And this instrument of delegation of functions to the general manager will do just that, ensuring councillors are the key decision makers on council's key community assets on behalf of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vaughan. The second of that, Councillor Christina Jamieson, did you want to talk to this?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Okay. Is there any further discussion, Councillor?
Yeah, well, I'll actually speak against that because I actually agree with Councillor Borg. I think council does have responsibility for all its assets, and in fact, council makes policy decisions over all its assets and over the management of the council. One of those is, as has been referred to by the acting general manager, and I apologise to him for asking that previous question. I realised after I'd asked it, I'd put him in a very difficult situation, so I apologise for that. But one of those is, of course, the budget. And those high-level policy decisions are how councillors, acting, for want of a better term, as a board of management, as a company board would operate, make those decisions. And that was the point of my questions previously, because everything I asked clearly indicated that these removals of responsibility from the general manager, no matter who that person was or is, the removal of those actually take away the operations which are very much part of the role of the senior leadership team and the staff. And that's why I believe that the previous delegations as given by this council, and indeed, as we've been told in those workshops, by the great majority of councils throughout this state, were appropriate. We do not need to hamstring our general manager or the staff in the decisions that they take representing, like us, the best interests of the community. My concern is, as I say, the things that are listed there are in many cases superfluous because those items were coming to council already, and indeed anomalous. Because, as I said earlier, I agree with Councillor Borg, we do have responsibility for all our assets. Those assets are not just a synthetic football field, whether it's at Poulton Park or Penshurst Park or Peakhurst Park. We've also got the same responsibility for the turf that exists at Gannons Park or Charles Peary Reserve, or indeed any of the other 30 or so sporting fields where active recreation takes place. We still have that responsibility. And I'll conclude by saying this. The ultimate responsibility that this group sitting around here tonight, acting, as I say, as a board of management, the ultimate responsibility they have is the appointment of the general manager to lead the operations of the business. Just the same as a board appoints the CEO of NAB or BHP or any other organisation. We have that ultimate responsibility. And part of that responsibility is having faith in that person to undertake what are known colloquially as delegations. That, councillors, is why I believe we don't need this motion. We just needed to stick with our previous delegation. I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Green. We've had one for and one against. Do we have any further speakers for or against at this stage? Councillor Samuel Mayer. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I have taken on board everything that's been said earlier. I have one slight issue with the delegations, and that is merely the hamstringing of any of those organisations that may be using any of those council facilities needing to apply for any sort of government grants. As I've made this known to fellow councillors as we went through the workshop process. I have that concern where, if, for instance, let's use Hurstville Aquatic Centre, if I may, from the previous term of government, previous term of council. That roof was busted. It was leaking water. It had all sorts of problems. If there was a federal government grant or a state government grant that had opened up in March and say, let's say it was closing in September, and then you get to the end of August, and all of a sudden you realise that there's this massive problem that you could qualify for a grant and actually get that grant done, but you've only got 2 or 3 days to submit the grant. What this does is actually stop that organisation from being able to use their time wisely in submitting the grant to get it in before the deadline that the state or the federal government may have, and it may be for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They then have to wait till next March if that grant opens up again. My concern is that if we do this, then we're stopping the ability for any of those organisations to be able to turn around, request government grants, because it's got to come back to us to sit here and discuss whether we're going to approve it, we're not going to approve it, we're going to allow them to submit the grant, we're not going to allow them to submit the grant. It's just wrong. All the other stuff, it's going to come to us anyway. So it's, that's the one sticking point that I have with this whole thing. All the other points that were made earlier, Councillor Borg made them, in terms of these are council assets, strategic assets, we should have a say. I agree with you 100%. It sets the direction of council, what we want to do, but these are coming to us anyway, previously. So it's that one point that, unfortunately, I just can't support the motion as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Sam Elmia. And did you have a point of clarification?
Yes.
You can't speak again, sorry.
I would just like to clarify the comments from Councillor Elmia, because they were raised in the workshop, and I do believe that this amended schedule addresses those points, and maybe the director can outline how the amendments in Part 6A, B and C do address that, because there is the provision in there for the limit of the $30,000. It also is the provision which the director talked about before, which if it's already an endorsed project or approved by resolution, then it doesn't need to come to council. And then for anything outside of that, in cases of an emergency, there's an item in there where if it hasn't been endorsed, it can be done so by the mayor if it's deemed to be urgent. So I believe that all of the scenario that Councillor Elmia just raised is addressed in the amended schedule that the director circulated.
Well, I will make a point of that case, because I actually questioned Ms. Weatherly on that, because I do recall that there is an urgency provision, which basically means that the acting general manager or the general manager, whoever it is at the point it becomes urgent, then refers it to me, and then I actually turn around and say, yes, it is urgent, just go ahead and sign off to allow them to submit a grant, submit a thing for a grant. Councillor Lansbury, did you want to?
Mr. Mayor, if I could speak to it?
Yes,
is that possible? Thank you. Look, I'm not going to focus on the hamstrung by grant applications, because I don't see that as going to be a real problem, as Councillor Borg has just mentioned and Ms. Weatherly has also alluded to. I'm going to speak from someone who's been on council for, well, I consider it a long time, 17 years or something. And I can say in the old days of Cogra, we were very involved with a lot of items, like some of the venues. Obviously, we're talking about the former Hurstville venues, a lot of these venues that are named here. But I remember being across the details of the leases for Beverley Park Golf Club and, Cars Park Pool, when that was in existence and things like that. Councillors were involved in those sorts of decisions, and I don't believe it unnecessarily delayed things. As the elected governing body, we need to be a part of those discussions, and I will be really honest in saying the last term of council, we were just sidelined from most of those arrangements because they were considered.
Councillor Kevin Green, yes. Yeah, I think at this point in time, yeah, I take your point, but I think it really isn't a point of order. Can you yes, please. Sorry? I didn't hear what you said. Yes.
That in the last 5 years of council, and I'm happy to go through from memory and list all the leases and licenses that on facilities that are on that list that came before council for discussion. In fact, in 2 of those, I had to exclude myself while the council laws made the discussion. So I can't go into the detail, but they definitely came before council.
I think at this point in time, I think Councillor Lansbury could really not refer to history.
Sure, I'm just speaking from my experience, Mr. Mayor, and I'm very confident in my experience of what I know, what went down at the last term of council, and the number of decisions that councillors were not involved with. And I think that this is a great step forward. It's not going to delay things. It doesn't mean that somebody who has the lease on a venue is not going to be able to apply for grant funding. The time that they leave it till 3 days before the grant funding closes, well, perhaps they're going to need to get better organised for the next round. I mean, most people who are seeking grant funding are scouring those sorts of opportunities when they arise. I think that this is a very timely document. I think it's a new term of council, and I think it's really entirely appropriate for councillors to be across the detail. And I stress, I again had no idea what the arrangements were when the Sharks took the lease or the hire agreement, or however it was phrased, for Jubilee Oval. And I was asked a lot of questions about that. As a councillor, I should have known that, but I was excluded from that discussion. Same with Sydney FC. As it turned out, that was great. I mean, it was wonderful to see a premium facility like Netstrata used to its full use for the last 2 to 3 years. But as councillors, we need to be a part of those discussions. Need I mention things that happened under administration? I am going to mention this, the Carl Bay Bowling Club. That was dealt with under administration. Councillors locked into an arrangement with that, which is a complete antithesis of what we arranged at Cogra. Now, I read an article the other day about Peterson Bowling Club is celebrating 125 years, and they punted their poker machines a few years ago, and everyone said, oh, the sky will fall and it would have never worked and all the rest of it. But it has worked. It's a family-friendly venue. We did the very same thing with Carl Bay Bowling Club, and it was a bold move at the time. We returned the poker machine licenses or whatever it was. It was a thriving venue. And it was the bistro was where everyone locally walked down on Friday nights and weeknights and took their families, and now that particular venue has been excluded to the greater community, and it's a wedding reception venue, which is not the original intention of what Cogra Council put forward. Those are the sorts of decisions that councillors need to be involved with, because I remember having a conversation with the administrator at the time, because we're administration, I wasn't a councillor. I asked him what was happening with it, and he said, well, I think the community is going to be really happy with it. Well, I can tell you the community is not happy with it. We need to avoid those sorts of decisions being made without councillor involvement. We don't need to micromanage, but we need to be a part of things, and not everything is considered an operational decision. And I have a lot of councillor years of experience as a councillor, and I can tell you it has increasingly, those decisions have been removed from us, Councillor Green. So you might disagree with me, but I'm speaking from experience, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Councillor Mayor, do you have a question?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, just to the point I made earlier, and I'm happy to be corrected, but my understanding of 6A, B, point, the reference that Councillor Ball made earlier, is that that's limited to $30,000. Is that correct?
Ms. Weatherly.
No, my understanding is that the wording says it's $30,000, or the grant funding will be applied to a project endorsed or approved by council, or in cases of urgency. So that's actually, you only need to meet one of the criteria. You could meet more, but one of the criteria would be sufficient.
Right, okay. Yeah, well, to the point that I was making earlier, Councillor Lansbury, it wasn't about leaving the application to the last minute. I'm saying in cases of emergency, like if something was to present itself, yeah.
I appreciate
like
you making
for a
the
day
clarification.
before, yeah, for a day before, then it's.
Thank you, Councillor Mee.
I'll
Do you
also
have
ask
another point of clarification?
To the acting general manager in his former capacity as the director of business and corporate services, can I just confirm with you that in the previous term of council, all leases and licenses signed on any of those that are listed in the subject items today, any of those that came to council were those documents were presented to Councillor Lansbury for her to read. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, and again, I might call on the assistance of Mr. Ladder, but my recollection is you scared me then, Merrill.
That breaks the ice.
My recollection is that you know, I can't put hand on heart and say that they all did, but there's certainly some there that certainly jump out, and they did come to council. You know, if I look down there, you know, as I say, any new ones that came up used to be either via tender, I understand. So
they had to come to council.
they had to come to council, that's correct.
Councillors, if there's no more discussion, I'd like to make a couple of points, if that's okay. Look, I've probably been local government the longest around this horseshoe. My experience with delegations, etc., is that the general managers that I've come across, let's face it, for want of a better word, they're all human. And they've all got their own beliefs and their own ways of dealing with matters that come before council. Some of them are more restrictive, some of them are more, let's say, consultative with the councillors. At this point in time, I'm supporting that motion of Councillor Boggs and Councillor Christina Jamieson, I think, because I believe that you shouldn't, it's got nothing to do with the acting general manager at the present moment. It's got to do with what I believe is fair and just, and that is you've got certain parameters that you want your general managers to function by with regards to delegations. We've been asked to adopt or get rid of various delegations on an annual basis. I presume that's correct. On an annual basis, we've been asked to do it, or at the new term of the council. I'm supporting this because I think it puts some, let's say, definition on the areas that we want to know about, and the areas we don't want to know about. Well, the general manager can act with all due diligence and delegated authority. I do believe that there's got to be some parameters that we set because we're happy to allow those parameters to be programmed and organised by the general manager. Those that we don't care about, they're not listed. So how about this? The fact remains that I've probably seen in my local government time, I've probably seen about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 general managers, maybe 5, I can't remember exactly. And they've all been different and they all function in a different manner. We're just trying to put some, I suppose, parameters behind that functioning of a general manager, which are minimal to our requirements. That's all I'm supporting it. Not because somebody did this, another general manager did that, etc. It's just time to define those delegations that we are happy to let the general manager have, and those that we're not happy to have, not because we don't trust the acting general manager, not because we didn't trust the one beforehand or many years ago, but because that's the way we want them to function. So unless somebody else has got anything else to say with regards to supporting it, I just can't remember how many supporting it. I think we had 1, 2 and 2 for, 2 against. So at this stage, if you're happy for me to put it, I will put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no.
No.
How many no's have we got? So 1. All right, well, I declare it carried. Thank you. Now we're going to a local government conference, I think it is. It's local government special conference. CCL 068-22. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the recommendation.
Who's second? Oh, Councillor Green. Yes. Is there any discussion on this one? None. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. We declare it carried. The next item is CCL 066-22 Forest Road, Durham Street, Hurstville Traffic Facility Construction, moved by Councillor Colleen Symington. Do we have a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Kathleen Lansbury.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move the recommendation. I'm going to read this out, that the Forest Road, Durham Street Traffic Facility Construction Project budget and funding be approved as outlined in the confidential attachment. I've been anticipating this intersection installation for a long time. It's a vital part to making the Hurstville Education Precinct safer. It's going to actually formalise pedestrian movements, which in turn will make it safer for students and residents, and will also contribute to slowing traffic. And it's the first part of 3 parts. Next will be the Lily Street upgrade, and then we'll be able to have the comprehensive traffic study. So this is very significant and very needed. Thank you.
Councillor Symington. Is there any further discussion on this? No? Councillor Ben Wayne, thank you.
Yeah, I just want to support Councillor Colin Symington, because this area is very, very dangerous, very crowded, not only for the current traffic situation, but for the upcoming development. So it's very timely and significant motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Is there any further discussion on this? There is, and I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. St George Local Business Awards.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Samuel Mayer moves, seconded. Councillor Colleen Symington. Any discussion on this, Councillor Mayer? No?
Apart from the small fact that it's great to be out there supporting our local small businesses, but more importantly to showcase the great businesses that we have in our LGA. And I think these year-on-year awards highlight that, and it gives everyone an opportunity, to showcase exactly what they're offering within our LGA. We do have a very thriving small business community in Georges River, and I think given that council is there continuously supporting small businesses, we allow them to excel and further their businesses into the future.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor. Councillor Colleen Symington. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with everything that Councillor Elmer said. As a former small business owner myself, these are great. Like, we were nominated twice, and all the hard work and effort that you put in, and it's like it can be really terrible sometimes being a small business owner. There's lots of things to contend with, and we look forward to these awards where our customers voted and gave the support and said how great, what a great job you were doing and the service that you were providing. And I don't think we can do enough to support small business, particularly coming out of COVID, where they've done it really, really tough. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Is there any further discussion on this one? No? I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. We think at this point in time it's an notice of motion 060-22, recording of condolence motions. Councillor Peter Marnie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have an amendment to make, and I've sent that through to Ms. McKinley a bit earlier. Basically, it refines the motion in the business paper. Just read it out if you like. Is that okay? The council records all past and future condolence motions in the George River Library's local studies collection, beginning from the commencement of the term of the current council. So just this current council. Records on the individual will be created that capture the condolence notice provided by the councillor, including a link to the death notice available. A more detailed record will be created if the individual meets one or more of the following criteria. A has made a significant demonstrable contribution to community capacity building, including extensive volunteer work, or has led social, cultural or economic reform within the George River LGA. And B has represented the diversity of the region, including but not limited to First Nations peoples and war veterans. C has a strong or special association with a particular community or cultural group. And D has contributed to an understanding of the cultural and natural history of the Georges River Council LGA.
Well, that was moved by Councillor Peter Marnie. Do we have a seconder? Seconded, Mr. Mayor. Seconded by Councillor Sam Elmere. Peter, Councillor Marnie, did you want to just talk to this?
Nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Is that okay? Councillor Elmere, did you want to talk to it?
What a great way to put a historical archive together for people that are quite significant within our LGA, and I think this is a great step forward because there are so many people that have contributed. They're silent contributors, but when we get up and we put a condolence motion at council, it's generally because of a close connection to that person and understanding exactly how they've contributed throughout their lifetime. So I think this is a great way to start archiving the local history and contributors within our LGA and people that we may know and put condolence motions up. So that way, further down the track, someone from their family or friends or whatever it may be can have a connection that is directly linked to our local libraries. Good on you, Peter, for that. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Elmere. Does anyone want to talk against that? No? Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. And now we're going on to congratulations to the Australian Chinese Community Association New South Wales on the Healthy Living Workshop. Councillor Nancy Liu.
Thank you,
We've
Mr.
got a mover.
Yeah.
And a seconder.
To second it?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor
Councillor
Elmere.
Elmere.
Yeah.
Thank you. First thing I just try to congratulate this special program called a Healthy Living Workshop. The second thing I wanted to acknowledge this organization is those organizations like this, we call it ACCA and the CAS we just talked about. They are the most long history Chinese organization in the Chinese community for the past, I think, 40 to 50 years. So they are still very active in the local community to serve their members and the community in large. So these motions try to congratulate their particular program and recognize their achievement as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Samuel Mee, did you want to add to that?
I might as well, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, well done, Councillor Liu, on this motion. I think more broadly from a multicultural perspective, a lot of these multicultural organisations that do this great work would be pleased to know that in the last state budget, the Treasurer, Matt Keane, with recommendations made by the Minister for Multiculturalism, Mark Curran, our local member, increased the budget by, I think it was about $50 million. So it's quite significant. It's more than doubled to provide organisations such as the Australian Chinese Community Association and others to apply for grant funding so that they can undertake this sort of great delivery of programs and events. So I encourage a lot of the multicultural organisations across the state to make applications because there's plenty of money there.
Thank you, Councillor Samuel Mead. Is there any further discussion on this? No? Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried unanimously. Now we're going to removal of car spaces in the Mortdale Streetscape. Councillor Christina Jamieson.
I just wanted to say thank you to the Director for answering the questions, and given that we have been going to be provided with a very detailed traffic report, I withdraw this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. The motion is withdrawn, and we'll go to the next one, which is still in your name, Councillor Jamieson.
I also withdraw that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Jamieson. We'll go to the next one, which is the acquisition of Glen Lee. Councillor Peter Marnie. Oh, we've done this one, have we? Sorry. What have we got? Questions with notice. Well, as I said, those have been my policy in the past. I will only take questions on questions with notice, not discussions. And please don't stand up and grandstand. Just give us a question. Councillor Lansbury, yes.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I have a question with notice on the paper tonight. It's number 035-22. Stormwater infrastructure and drainage issues in Princess Street, Mortdale. I just had a couple of questions for the Director, Mr. Ladder, if that's okay. Thank you for the response to this. I think it's probably fair to say that it's not just a one issue in that part of the world. The response that's here kind of relates more to the issue that's external to those particular properties, I think more on Park Street and Prince Street. My question was more, and I probably should have phrased it more clearly, was more related to what Mr. Farrar presented at the June Council meeting, which was basically his inability to build on his property with the stormwater system that's currently in place. Now, my understanding is that there are options available to him. I guess that's my question. That's correct, right? Like, it's not as if he's going to be given the message from council, no, you can't build on that in perpetuity. There are options available, is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lansbury is correct. There are options available to the landowner. What we had suggested in the first instance is that we would actually gauge the condition of the pipe running through his property. That work has now been complete. We're at a point now where we can talk options.
Just one quick follow-up question, if I may. We actually have an on-site meeting with Mr. Farrell organised for, I think, one day next week. I think it's basically, the reality is that I know that council's not responsible for paying for relocating pipes. I understand that that's the issue that would need to be for him to redevelop his property is that the stormwater pipes in their existing space would need to be relocated. That's certainly doable, is my understanding, and that's something that we can discuss at the meeting. But I think it's important that people know that it isn't council's responsibility to do that, and I think Mr. Farrow is aware of it too, because I have had that discussion with him as well, that he knows that it's something that it's basically that council and the resident need to be able to work together. So that's something we can facilitate. I'm quite sure we can do that when we have our site meeting, and I guess I need to turn this into more of a question, but we can facilitate that, can't we? Mr. Ladder, at our site meeting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that can be facilitated. As Councillor Lansbury rightly points out, it's council's responsibility to maintain the existing stormwater network. To do any further upgrade or relocation would be the landowner's responsibility.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on questions? Further questions on questions? Well, I think that was the last slide, isn't it? Sorry? That's it? Oh, well, thank you, councillors. That's not a bad performance. I declare this meeting closed at 14 minutes to 9 o'clock. Thank you, councillors. Have a good evening.